This is 1360 AM. WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia. Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. Brought to you from Forsyth Broadcasting. Or listen to us at WNJCradio.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and around the world on the Internet, actually. And joining me today as my co-host is Anna Little. Anna, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Well, hello there, Rick, and happy Friday. I'm happy to be with you.
Happy Friday, and I believe this is the last day of February in the year 2014 and froze to death.
Well, you know, I am not a cold weather person. I'm a Jersey Shore girl, and I very much would like to escape the winter. So I have already been looking southward on the eastern seaboard. I guess you can suggest states to me, but I've already looked at Florida. And I've got to tell you, taking a break in the middle of this weather is not a bad idea.
Not at all.
This particular winter has been very, very cold, lots of precipitation. That means snow, and I've about had it. We've painted almost every room in the house, so cabin fever is in full swing. Time to move on.
Well, and of course, you and I and the rest of the crew here at the Conservative Commandos Radio Show will be moving on next week. In fact, next Thursday and Friday, we are going to be doing our show live from the Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington, D.C., CPAC. So that'll be a little bit further south, Anna, but probably not as far south as you would like to get.
That's true. That's true. But, you know, it will be an improvement weather-wise, although they've seen their share this season, too. This has been an extremely cold winter.
Yes, it is. Yes, it has.
Which begs to question whether we have to be concerned about global warming.
Well, I think we have to be concerned about global idiots, and those are the people who actually believe that humankind can control and alter the weather. I think that's that task is above the pay grade of anyone here on Earth, to be honest with you.
That's true, and I do think we have to make sure that when we make decisions about weather or climate or even the environment, we need to be bound by the scientific evidence that's available to us at that moment. And I think that's where the global warming scheme, I'll call it, has gone awry. And we did find that there was a large exodus by leadership that became aware of the fact that not only was that scientific evidence being ignored, but it was being mischaracterized and misrepresented to the general public. So I think that's been the issue with the whole global warming situation. Yes, we have to be good stewards of our environment, of course, but the entire global warming situation has been mischaracterized, and so we need to create the new normal based on the scientific evidence.
Anna, I think the scientific evidence is you look back in the history of the Earth, and that the Earth has gone through warm cycles and cold cycles and ice ages.
Yeah.
For hundreds and thousands of millions of years, it's always been that way. It'll always be that way, no matter what these idiots in Washington try to tell us, not just Washington, but around the world, that there is nothing that mankind could do short of detonating every nuclear device on the face of the earth that, in my opinion, could change weather patterns.
Yeah. Well, I think you definitely got a pretty good handle on it. I mean, the cycles that this planet has gone through in the past are certain indicators of what we can be looking forward to in the future, and there may be scientific evidence that some of the evolutionary changes in the environment, not necessarily man-made, but incidental to our existence here and our participating in the ecosystem. All of that is to be balanced and considered, but I think the evidence that's available to us through scientific study, it cannot be skewed. It has to be appropriately and truthfully portrayed if we're going to be honest about dealing with any issues that may exist. And we also, as you've noted, have to accept the fact that we are not omnipotent and therefore we may not possess the power to change what's going on.
I don't think we can. I don't think it is possible, as I said, short of detonating every nuclear device on the face of the earth. Anna, speaking of looking forward, why don't we run down our list of guests for today?
Okay, I think that's wonderful. I have the honor of interviewing these three guests today, so I'll go through and tell you who we're going to be speaking to, although as a producer, I think you set these guys up. Basically, the first one who's coming on in our 3:30 segment is Curtis Dubé. He is a senior analyst in the tax policy at the Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies. And basically the reason we're having him come on is because it's tax time. And those of you who are working through the tax season already know that. But tax reform has been suggested by Representative Dave Camp, who's a Republican, and he's put some specifics forward. So we're going to discuss that with Curtis Dubé today. There's an article that was written by Amy Payne in the Foundry. Listeners, if you want to get ahead and take a look at this, and it's called 3 Ways to Make April 15 Less Painful. So that's what we're going to be discussing with Curtis Dubé. And then the next interview that I have the honor of participating in is with Liz Peek. Now, she spent over 20 years on Wall Street, and most of those years she was a top-ranked research analyst, and she's managed her firm's entrance into international research and a foray into the market for U.S. equities in Japan. So she's a very, very qualified professional woman. She's now a columnist and a political analyst, and so we are going to be speaking with Liz Peek about her writings in the Fiscal Times about immigration. Now, I love this issue, Rick. You know that because I'm actually an immigration attorney in my day job. So I'm very interested in speaking with Liz about what Obama is doing in the context of immigration and how the title of her article is Why Obama Will Throw U.S. Immigration Laws Overboard. So we really are looking forward to speaking with Liz about this very hot-button issue as we are gearing up for the 2014 election cycle. You know it's going to be filled with discussion on this issue. And then the last person that I get to interview, we saved, the last interview for one of the hot topics of the day, and this is Jillian Melchior. She is a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and the Franklin Center Fellow for National Review, and she's covering energy and environmental issues. She also writes for the National Review as a Thomas L. Rhodes Fellow for the Franklin Center for Government and Public Integrity. So we're very excited to be speaking with her, and she is going to be talking to us about a convicted terrorist who worked as an Obamacare navigator in Illinois. Now, you can't get more sensational than that. So we're going to be having an expose on this Obamacare navigator in Illinois, the kind of people we're finding in this abomination of legal healthcare takeover.
I would like to know why this person is even seeing the light of day, and a little. I would, this terrorist, this convicted terrorist, I would like to know why this person is even seeing the light of day. If if only through the bars of a prison. And yet, here she is in this country, working as an Obamacare navigator, having access to all our personal files and records.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh. Hey, Anna, we only have about another minute, so let's do this. Let's go to a break now. Let's go a little early, and then we can come back fresh on the other side and see what's on your radar screen, okay?
All right, that sounds great, Rick.
All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, and I'm Rick Trader, and I'm joined by Anna Little today, and we're coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and of course around the world on the internet. Today's show is brought to you by the First Amendment, and it is protected by the Second. So please don't go away, Anna and I will be right back.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back, everybody, and welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I am Rick Trader, and I'm joined today by my co-host du jour, that is Anna Little. And if you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 10:30 this evening, please go to www.patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m., right after we go off the air today, you can go to cprworldwidemedia.com and hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos radio show. And also on Monday, you can hear a rebroadcast of today's show at vigilantlibertyradio.us. So, and a little, what is on your radar screen this day, my friend?
Well, I think we ought to talk about foreign affairs, Rick, and I'm very, very focused on what's going on in Ukraine.
Yes.
This is a stupendous turn of events right on the heels of the Olympic Games, which ended in Sochi the day before, I believe. The parliament was prevailed upon to change the government in Ukraine, which led to the ousting of the president, Viktor Yanukovych. I think I'm saying that correctly. He has fled the country. At first, he was saying he was definitely going to stay. He is the valid president. He will not leave the country. He's now pleading to Russia for protection, personal protection. There is a rumor that he's in Russia. That's unconfirmed. The parliament has actually recognized an interim government not led by Yanukovych. So really the people of Ukraine have risen up and through their representatives in the legislative branch of their government have determined that they no longer want this leader. And it has put Putin, leader of Russia, in a very uncomfortable situation because the former leader, President Yanukovych, is asking for Russia's intervention to put him back in power, and yet you have this popular uprising which the rest of the world is congratulating. So it's really quite a situation, Rick. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, my concern, I love history, Anna. You know that. And there have been many, many examples in the last 50 to 70 years in Hungary, in Czechoslovakia, in Tiananmen Square, in different places where people have taken to the streets to demand government change. And in Czechoslovakia and in Hungary and in Tiananmen Square, that after a very brief time of freedom, a totalitarian government stepped in to take the power back once again. And I'm just wondering if the same thing isn't going to happen in the Ukraine. I've seen reports, I don't know if they're substantial reports or what, that there are Russian troops that are massing near the Russian-Ukrainian border.
That is true, it's according to the New York Times, which, but it does say as of yesterday that 150,000 troops had been moved by Russia, their Russian troops, to Ukraine's doorstep, and that's a warning about Russia's preparedness, but there's been no decisive action taken by President Putin at this time.
Well, Putin is not Barack Obama. I do not think that Putin would telegraph his intentions the way Barack Obama does. I think that if Putin has intentions of invading the Ukraine to restore that president whose name I can't pronounce, good on you that you can, that he would not telegraph his intentions the way that Barack Obama does. He would just go ahead and do it.
I think you're probably right. I mean, we can judge his personality because he has been in office for some time, and he has made some decisive actions on the world stage, even in the last few years, especially this past year. I mean, he stepped in where the United States should have, in the Middle East, I believe.
In Syria.
Once that I can remember. And, and so I think if there is hesitancy here, it is to be noted because I do believe Vladimir Putin understands the recognition worldwide of this popular uprising and the peaceful nature of it. I mean, okay, has there been some violence? Of course there has. But the thrust of this government takeover, if you want to call it that, that's what Yanukovych is calling it, was through the parliament. So the people actually rose up and used their representatives in their government to show who's in charge. And You know, Rick, I love that.
Well, I know that you love when we, the people, or those people, rise to stop a bad government, stop a bad politician.
Or
and,
just
you know, the Ukraine...
that they're in charge.
Sure.
You know, we are in charge, and so should the people of Ukraine be in charge, and that should, in my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion,
Yes,
First
you are.
Amendment protects that.
And that's why we have you here, for your opinion.
Yeah, true. I think we should encourage that worldwide. I think a lot of the problems I deal with on a daily basis in my political asylum practice in immigration law could be averted if the people in those countries rose up and faced their government head on. There's always more people than there are leaders. Come on, stand up, be firm, don't be crazy, don't be homicidal. Stand up, direct, and take control of your government. And I think when people do that, when we the people do that, whatever country you're in, everything's better.
Oh, I agree. And one other point I wanted to touch on as far as the Ukraine, you know, the Ukraine is a very, very, very poor, impoverished country. One of the poorest countries in Europe. And I saw some pictures the other day where the president of that country, what's his name again, Anna?
I say Yanukovych.
Yanukovych, where Yanukovych was living. And I've been to Paris, and I've seen Versailles, and I've seen other beautiful, opulent places. But to me, this house where he was living was like another Versailles. It was a palace. I mean, it was a gilded palace. And to think that he was living like that while the people are living in squalor, that's another reason these people rose up. That when you have people that live in or near poverty, they can see what's going on in the rest of the world. There's televisions around and radio and things. And when they see how other people in other parts of the world, when they see how people in other parts of Europe are living, they say, hey, that's what we want. We want a piece of that action. We want to be part of Europe, not necessarily part of the old Soviet empire, and live the way that we're living.
And I think that is the appropriate method that people should use when they are experiencing oppression. They become aware of that, and they want to make a change. The appropriate manner to do that is exactly what the Ukrainian people did. They rose up, they put pressure upon their representatives who are to bring their voice to government, and they had Parliament take action. Now, as the sitting President Yanukovych didn't like that result, but I think it was the intention of representative government to allow this kind of result to avoid a bloody war, which would have been necessary absent that representative government for a change in government to occur. I think this is an example of exactly what we should be encouraging here within the United States, but also worldwide, because it leads ultimately to peace.
Anna, I agree with you, but for right now, we do have to take a break. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station, and of course around the world on the internet with our new internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please don't go away. Just on the other side of this break, Ann and I are going to be speaking with Curtis DeBay of the Heritage Foundation. We will be right back.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, I'm smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I am Rick Trader. I'm joined today by my co-host, Anna Little. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:30 this evening East Coast time, please go to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. or if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show. And we had a great guest on, Kathleen Willey, and Kathleen Willey was one of the people who accused Bill Clinton of sexually molesting her in the Oval Office of the White House. You could hear a rebroadcast of that show today at 5 o'clock, right after we go off the air live at CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And Anna Little, we do have our first guest with us, and will you please make the introduction?
I'd be happy to, Rick. Listeners, we have the honor this afternoon of speaking with Curtis Dubai. He is a senior analyst in tax policy in the Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies at the Heritage Foundation, where he specializes in tax issues. Curtis previously served as a senior economist for the Tax Foundation, where he authored 3 widely recognized and cited reports: Tax Freedom Day, State-Local Tax Burdens, and the State Business Tax Climate Index. Curtis, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Curtis, I'm really excited to talk to you this afternoon about taxes. Here we are, heading, we've left February. Today's the last day in February. We've all got about a month and a half to get these taxes filed, and I'm sure everybody's biting their nails and trying to figure out how they're going to navigate their way through this monstrosity of a law we have that pretty much finds ways to take all of our hard-earned money and give it to the government. Not a pleasant experience.
No, it's certainly not, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon, which is unfortunate. And, of course, Obamacare makes it even more complicated. So, yeah, I wish I had better news about that, but it's going to keep on being very difficult to comply with the tax code for the time being.
Well, I do think there are some in Washington that are making proposals that would improve our situation, and I guess we can find some hope in the fact that there are at least some representatives in Washington that get it, and, whether they're successful or not, it remains to be seen. But I guess Representative David Camp has rolled out a plan for tax reform. Would you care to comment on what you've seen this week, really, relative to
Yeah, well, that was an exciting development. Chairman Camp is the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. It's the committee that writes tax legislation, and since tax legislation originates in the House of Representatives, it's the most important tax writing committee in Congress. And even though the environment is not right for tax reform right now, you have a president in the White House who would rather demagogue tax reform plans than actively engage in constructing a positive plan, and the same goes for the leaders over in the Senate. Chairman Camp put out his plan anyway, and needs to be applauded for that, and his staff as well. They've worked for many years to put this plan together, and now they finally released it.
Well, that's great. And so I'm hoping that we're going to see some simplification as part of this plan. I mean, I guess it's got 3 pieces. I'm referring to Amy Payne's article in the Foundry, which I think you're familiar with. It's entitled 3 Ways to Make April 15 Less Painful. And she's referencing 3 pieces that she thinks are evident in Representative Camp's proposal. One would be lower rates. The other is making things simple. And the third is, well, goodness gracious, let's be clear. So why don't we talk about some of these issues? I mean, the lower tax rates. Lower tax rates should mean lower taxes, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it depends. Unfortunately, I can't give a clear answer on that, because what a tax reform plan like Chairman Camp does is it does 2 things at the same time. It lowers tax rates to improve the incentives for all of us to work harder and to save more and invest more, and for entrepreneurs to take more risks. That those activities, increasing those activities, boost economic growth, and that's the purpose of tax reform, to boost economic growth, while at the same time simplifying filing returns for tax filers and taxpayers. But at the same time, usually these are done so they're what's referred to as revenue neutral, so the tax plan raises the same amount of revenue as the current plan. So at the same time, you eliminate lots of credits and deductions and exemptions that litter the tax code. And so you probably end up paying a similar amount of taxes, but you'll do so in a simpler way, and you'll pay a lower rate, so you'll have a greater incentive to engage in productive activity.
Well, I agree with you that lower tax rates do stimulate the economy, and Lord knows we need something to stimulate the economy. I mean, government bailouts didn't do the trick. the stimulus, as it was called, didn't stimulate anything. So, lower tax rates is the key to that. We learned that during the Reagan years, and, I would hope that somebody would get a clue and take some action on that now before we're in the state of Greece, which is where we're headed if we don't turn things around. But, the closing of loopholes, you're going to get a backlash from that because a lot of the most wealthy taxpayers use those loopholes in order to get out of some of the obligations. So talk to us about how closing loopholes is a positive thing.
Well, again, remember, you're lowering rates at the same time. So it's not just closing loopholes to raise taxes. It's closing those loopholes so that you can lower their tax rates. If you do it the right way, you should end up paying, everyone should end up paying similar amounts of tax as they do today. So the complaining about getting rid of some of those loopholes should be lessened. The problem is that the loopholes that you'd have to eliminate to really lower rates as much as you'd like to see, get maybe the top tax rate down to 25% or lower. Unfortunately, Chairman Kemp only gets it down to just over 38%, so it's still pretty high. You'd have to get rid of ones that are really necessary in a tax code, or something like the exclusion for employer-provided health insurance, which, although is not a good policy, you can't just rip out because then you'd destroy the 50% of the health insurance market. So it gets pretty complicated. It's a lot easier, and you can get a lot more successful if you do what we call fundamental tax reform, which means that you don't work within the confines of the current system. You start from scratch, and you build up by picking a proper tax base, one that's much more closely aligned to consumption than income, and then you go from there. The tax system falls very neatly in place after you choose a base like that, and then you're not stuck with this trading of loopholes to make the plan all work out.
Yeah, and I think we've got to be gradual in certain circumstances where we're making huge change. Short of scrapping the entire system and going to something else, which I guess we're going to talk about too here, short of scrapping the entire system, if you're going to make drastic changes within the system, you do need to look at the overall effect on the economy. The whole point is to improve the economic situation for workers and employers and obviously the rest of us, consumers, service industry, everything's connected. But if you were to make a change that would damage the balance there, you might actually make things worse. But we've got a saying, of course my experience has been primarily in politics and the campaigning, so we've got a saying that what we don't want is more taxes, we want more taxpayers. More taxpayers is how we describe a growth in the economy. More people working, more contributors means less contributed by each individual. And I'm wondering if by closing these loopholes and lowering these tax rates, we might not be stimulating some kind of economic growth that gives us that situation and then does produce lower taxes. What do you think?
So the Camp plan has been scored in terms of how much economic growth it would create, and it does create some growth in the early years. Unfortunately, in the later years, it probably doesn't create much growth. It might actually hurt growth. So it's not as pro-growth as it could have been. There's no doubt about that.
So we need to figure out how to make it more pro-growth. Listen, Curtis, I'm sorry to jump right in after I've just let you speak as to that topic. Can you hold on through the break for us? Because obviously we're not finished. We have a lot more to go. Can you wait?
Sure.
Okay. Listeners, you are listening to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. We're broadcasting live from our flagship station, 1360 WNJC, and around the world on the Internet. And while we're on the break, we'd love you to take a look at our websites at ccrshow.com and conservativecommandosradioshow.com. We're excited to talk about taxes with Curtis Dubé, and we'll see you at the other side of break.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome back, fellow patriots, to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And we're joined today by Curtis DeBay from the Heritage Foundation. Curtis, thanks for holding through that break.
Sure, no problem.
Curtis, I'm sorry to show my ignorance, but your last name, is it DeBay or DeBay?
DeBay.
DeBay. Okay, thank you so much. I should know that by now. We've had you here on the show enough times, but I have to, sorry about that. In this report by Amy Payne that appeared in the foundation, she talks, number 2, she talks about simplify, simplify, simplify. And that's the idea behind the new flat tax that the Heritage Foundation has suggested. Heritage experts have explained that if this were in place, American taxpayers would pay a single, simple tax rate, approximately 28%, would replace all federal income taxes as well as a death tax and payroll taxes. Now, Curtis, that seems simple enough, but as you say, with the current climate in Washington, that just doesn't seem to be right around the corner, does it?
Unfortunately, no. It's not going to. We're not going to have tax reform this year. We're probably not going to have it while the current president is in office, and that really is unfortunate because the economy badly needs it. We're suffering. Growth is badly held back by the current tax system, and we're going to have to muddle along over the next couple of years because it just doesn't seem like it's in the cards. But even given that, it's still very courageous what Chairman Kemp did because he could take a lot of political heat for putting that plan out, but at the same time, he's going to keep the conversation going. He's going to keep it alive both nationally and in Washington, and that'll help push the issue forward. Now, I don't hold out much hope that President Obama will change his tune, but you never know. But it does make it more likely that the next go-around after 2016 that we will get someone who's more interested in reforming the code.
Well, what I think is very important is that we get the conversation started now so that when we do get a climate or another president and another Senate where we can get something through like the flat tax, that people know about it.
Right, yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, raise the visibility of tax reform as high as possible, so that when the time does come, when the time is ripe, we're ready to pounce and react. So this does help in that regard because it shows it shows that it takes a lot of gumption to do. It takes a lot of hard work, and it shows some of the pitfalls that can happen in tax reform as well. And it shows just how hard it is to actually do tax reform if you choose to engage with the current tax system. Basically, try to work within the parameters that it has set up. Very difficult to squeeze growth out of it.
You know, one of the other pitfalls I see with the tax code, Curtis, is that the tax code has been used far too long for social engineering. And it's my belief as long as we have an income tax, it's always going to be used that way. One of the things that I think could be done to change this system, and maybe you could compare it to the flat tax, is the fair tax. Your thoughts?
Yes, I mean, I think generally conservatives are in agreement that we need more of a consumption tax base, or sometimes it's called a consumed income tax base. Basically, they're economically identical. The problem with doing a retail level tax, with fair tax where you pay at the cash register, is the existence of the 16th Amendment. So the 16th Amendment gives Congress the right to tax our incomes.
Right.
As long as that's in place, they're going to tax our incomes. It's just the way they operate. So if we pass another tax system, a sales tax, I'm just afraid that they'll end up taxing us both ways, both on income and on consumption. We'll actually end up growing the size of government. So I'm much more comfortable instituting a tax plan that is identical to a consumption tax, but actually runs through the income tax system.
Well, you know, Curtis, what you just said was exactly what was on my mind. My fear of the fair tax, which is a consumption tax, is unless we totally get rid of the income tax to add another tax, boy, this is just another invitation for the foxes to be invading the hen houses.
And I'm going to jump in, gentlemen, because I know a little thing or two about this fair tax. And I would encourage both of you to check it out at fairtax.org. But they do actually propose in the legislation that has been circulated. It has over 60 co-sponsors right now in the House of Representatives. Not enough to be introduced, but the awareness is growing. And there are 2 paperback books out on this. One is called The Fair Tax, and the other, I think, is The Fair Tax Revisited, or something similar in title. Mm-hmm. They do propose in this law that the income tax be rescinded before the fair tax can take effect.
Well, I think, Anna, that
should not be this fear with fair tax. It's just a completely different system.
Well, Anna, I think you're totally right. But as Curtis said, the 16th Amendment gives Congress the authority to tax income. Curtis, one other question I had for you real quick before I hand you back off to Anna was Obamacare. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when people file their taxes this year, they're going to have to show proof that they have insurance. If not, they're going to be hit with the Obamacare tax. Do you think America is prepared for this?
Well, it's not going to be this April. It's next April, so they still have a year and 2 months. But no, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a wake-up call for some. And if they don't get their government-approved insurance by, I think it's March 31st, they're going to end up paying that fine. It's going to add another complication to the tax system, that's for sure, and it's going to add an extra expense for those Americans who weren't able to get government-approved health insurance because of the problems with Obamacare. It's going to be ugly next year. There's no doubt about that. But as far as the Obama administration is concerned, it's after the election, so I don't think they're really that worried about it.
Well, I think you said a mouthful there, Curtis. I mean, they certainly are politically minded in this president's administration. The 16th Amendment can be rescinded, I believe, by the action of taking the fair tax on. I'd like to look further into that. Perhaps, Curtis, you can come back and talk to us about fair tax versus flat tax when we have some of the facts in front of us. I've been a proponent of this fair tax before, and of course I could certainly support a flat tax in the alternative. But I think going further on with this discussion, we have to talk about not only simplification but clarity. Right? That's the third piece here. Apparently, a lot of these taxes, I guess we all kind of know this, they're hidden, right? There are corporate taxes and excise taxes, employer taxes, payroll tax. So it's pretty hard for the average American to determine just how much they're paying in taxes overall and when they're paying a tax. Some people are paying taxes and they don't even realize they're paying it. And this is such a monstrosity of a system that, clarity certainly would be an improvement. But how do you accomplish that, Curtis? Talk to us about it a bit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And actually, I think it does play in back to the fair tax and the national consumption tax. I would be all in favor of something like that because you wouldn't have to send all that information to the IRS. I am not naive, and I don't deny the fact that having to run a tax system through the income tax system means you got to send a whole bunch of information to the IRS. And to be honest, they've proven recently they can't be trusted with it. They really can't be.
I agree there. I think most of America agrees IRS cannot be trusted, period, in any way right now.
Right, and I was somewhat a defender of the IRS until recently. And I read an article the other day, and I just, you know what, they're politically corrupted, and it can't go on like that. But the problem is, and back to the 16th Amendment, is that yes, it can be repealed. Of course, it can. Any amendment can, but it's not practical. You have to get 2/3 of votes of each House of Congress, or 3/4 of each House of Congress, and then 2/3 of all the states. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. If you can achieve the exact same objective through the income tax system, you might as well do that rather than wait for the time that you're right to actually repeal the 16th Amendment. But I mean, if the time was right to do that, I'd be the first person on board.
Right. Well, that's understandable. I think you're correct with regard to the number of votes necessary to repeal the amendment. So that's for sure. Now, because of all these hidden costs, though, for corporate tax, excise tax, payroll taxes, and income taxes, isn't it true that Americans have very little idea of how much they're paying? I mean, that's what Amy Payne says at her article in the Foundry. Tax reform should make the system more transparent, right?
Certainly, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with that. There's no doubt about it. And that's actually, that's why you want to have fundamental tax reform, and fundamental tax reform where you actually just start from scratch, and then that way everyone knows at the end of the year you can say with much more certainty, this is how much tax I paid. Now, as long as you have a corporate income tax, it's going to be hard to do that because, of course, we all pay corporate income taxes, whether it's through lower returns of the shares we hold, or lower wages at our jobs, or fewer jobs, or higher prices in the things we buy. So we're all paying that, and it's very hard to ever figure out actually how much of that we're paying. But we could do a much, much better job of seeing how much we pay on the income and payroll tax side.
And I'm going to quote the heritage expert, yourself, Curtis Dubé, that you need to remind lawmakers that tax reform is not a way for Congress to extract more of the taxpayers' hard-earned income to pay for government spending. The goal is to boost the economy, meaning jobs, wages, and retirement savings. And I guess everybody should be behind that, according to you. So why don't you close us out of this segment with some comments on your suggestion of growing or boosting the economy with tax reform?
Right, yeah. Tax reform is about improving economic performance. It's not about making sure the government has more money to spend. And I think that's in there because we want to make sure that our friends on the other side of the aisle, our liberals, understand that when we're talking about tax reform, we're not talking about raising taxes because they're likely to cherry-pick parts of the camp tax reform proposal and want to pass them individually. So they'll want to say, let's close a loophole here and there. You're for it, aren't you? Without offering that they were for it in the context of tax reform, which means that it wasn't to raise taxes. They're going to want to do it the left is just to raise revenue for the government to spend. That's not what this is about, and the context matters hugely.
That's right. That's why.
Hey, Anna, this is Rick. Could I jump in for a minute?
About lowering rates.
Anna, could I just jump in for a minute?
Sure, Rick.
Curtis, before I let you go, there was something very amusing that I saw today on Facebook, posted by one of my Facebook friends. There is a restaurant in Florida who is posting the Obamacare tax on their bills. And people are outraged about this 1% tax, Curtis. But what I think people fail to realize is businesses don't pay taxes, that businesses collect taxes from the consumers.
Yes. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Businesses can't pay taxes. A person has to pay a tax. I often point and say, we have taxes, say, on cigarettes. Do cigarettes pay taxes? No, Of course not. A carton of cigarettes can't pay a tax.
Right.
Pack of cigarettes can't pay a tax. The person who buys it does. Same principle.
Well, Curtis Dubé, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. And for our listeners who want more information, where can they go?
Come to heritage.org, www.heritage.org, and all our work on taxes and everything else will be right there.
Hey, are we going to see you at CPAC next week?
I'll probably stop by.
All right, please drop by our booth. We'll be there on Radio Row.
Okay, we'll do.
All right, we're going to take a break. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. Check out our websites, www.ccrshow.com and www.conservativecommandosradioshow.com. Please don't go away, Anna and I will be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And once again, just a reminder, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, please go to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. this evening, please go to cprworldwidemedia.com. You can hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show with our special guest Kathleen Willey. And a little, immigration to me is the single biggest issue facing America today. I think that the idea of more amnesty to the 15 to 50 million people that are here illegally, if this goes through, I think it will change America forever. And in my opinion, not a very good way. And with that, Anna Little, our next guest is with us. And Anna, will you please make the introduction?
I'd be happy to, Rick. Listeners, we have the honor of speaking with, this afternoon, Liz Peek. She has spent over 20 years on Wall Street, most of them as a top-ranked research analyst. And after managing her firm's entrance into the international research and a foray into the market for U.S. equities in Japan, she became Wertheim & Company's first female partner. Liz Peek is now a columnist and political analyst, and aside from the Fiscal Times, she writes for FoxNews.com, the New York Sun, and Women on the Web. Liz, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I want to thank you for honoring us with your presence this afternoon to talk about what Rick, our producer, has said is the most important issue in the United States today, and that is immigration. Now, it seems to me that we've had some pretty good enforcement under the Obama administration. Deportations have been up by, quite a bit, more than double, I think, from 20 years ago. And yet, it seems the Hispanic vote has gone to this president in his most recent reelection. So that's confusing to me as an immigration practitioner. Why don't you enlighten us? What's going on with the Obama administration and immigration?
Well, I think that it's yet another example of where the president has talked a better game than he has delivered, and particularly with the Hispanic community. I mean, it was amazing to me in the last campaign that President Obama won an even higher percentage of the Latino vote, 72%, than he had 4 years earlier, and that is after, as you point out, the largest number of deportations in the country's history. So, as you say, what's going on here? Basically, Obama pulled a very clever move several months before the 2012 election with his sort of partial DREAM Act, where he allowed people under the age of 31 who'd been raised in the U.S., who had met certain criteria, that is, they'd gone to school or they had served in the military or whatever, a reprieve, a 2-year reprieve, a renewable 2-year reprieve from deportation. And, this is something that has pretty broad-spread support in America. I think most of us feel that if you have worked hard, you've worked your way through school, heaven knows if you served in the military, you should not be thrown out of the country. And particularly if you were brought here as an infant or as a young person and you have really no other place to go. So he tapped into a changing view on that particular element of our immigration puzzle, and at the same time, kind of convinced Hispanics he was on their side. Well, then, fast forward 2 years, he has really done nothing to broaden the conversation of immigration reform. And I share your view that it's something that really needs to be addressed, mainly because I think it's such a complete mess the way it is now. But, it's also a very, very hot-button topic, and Republicans came very close to kind of doing what I think they should do, actually, which is sort of a piecemeal approach to solving the particular issues here on the table. But then, I think they backed away feeling like a lot of the conservative base was so opposed to loosening the immigration laws we have now that it was just going to cost them votes. And also, look, John Boehner and the House Republicans want to stay focused on Obamacare. They really don't want to talk about anything else in this election. They know a winning topic when they see one, and that's what Obamacare is for Republicans right now. So it's off the table, and I think that Obama, what amused me is that these young dreamers took to the streets not long ago, last week, and started chanting in the streets, Obama, Obama, don't deport my mama, because they figured, the Republicans aren't going to do much for him, but here's a guy who's really given him all kinds of promises, so hold his feet to the fire. Let's see what he delivers. And my guess is he will, in fact, broaden this Dreamer Act, unilaterally. I mean, he won't. This is one of his pen and phone items. I think he will probably bend the rules, and we'll see this program widened.
You mentioned in your discussion just now a changing view with regard to some of the issues that surround immigration reform. And I know that one of the matters that's pushed very, very hard by Republicans and especially right-wing conservatives is the securing of the United States borders. And, there was a time, like back in 2010, I guess, and of course I'm referencing your article, where 38% thought that securing the borders was really important, and actually 60% wanted the tighter border security, and 38% thought that, the path to citizenship was important. And that was back in 2010, and remember the Tea Party was probably at its height because in 2010 we did take over the House of Representatives from a conservative uprising. So, that makes sense for that time period. Looking at the issue as late as last month, it seems that, let me get this one correct the first time, 54% want that to citizenship and 41%, only 41% are looking toward border security. So can you explain why that view may have changed?
Well, I think, look, the president has a bully pulpit, and this administration has made people aware of the humanitarian issues, for want of a better word. I mean, and it's not just the White House. There are other media outlets. The Economist just ran a very lengthy article about our immigration problems, and of course the New York Times keeps up a pretty steady drumbeat. But I think that Americans are, as I say, we are a very fair-minded people, and I think the immigration, the fact is most people came to the United States as immigrants. We see that this country is more healthy, more vital, more fast-growing because we don't have a closed door as so many European countries do. But, it's still very controversial. I think I think also people feel in terms of this, well, there are two things. One is in terms of border crossings, Mexico's doing pretty well. Mexico's growing jobs. We have far, far fewer people trying to get into this country because this White House has not been very successful in growing jobs. So, between the ramped-up enforcement and the lessened economic opportunity, the border crossing issue just simply isn't as much of a crisis as it was a couple of years ago when we really had kind of a lawless situation for a lot of the southwestern states. And also, in fairness, we have increased our border security. A lot more money is being directed there. It's still kind of a lame effort, if you ask me, in terms of enforcement. But anyway, it is beefier than it used to be. At the same time, I think that people are recognizing the idiocy of giving illegal people in the country here illegally, more and more benefits, whether it's access to our public schools or health care or whatever, without them also being signed up to pay taxes. I mean, how stupid are we that we're going to continue to expand our safety net to allow more and more people who are not citizens to access it, and yet we drive those people into the shadows and don't collect any kinds of taxes from them if they are not if they're not here legally. So there are some economic reasons why not amnesty. I don't really favor amnesty. I do favor legalization of some sort. You don't have to make these people citizens, but for heaven's sakes, let's get them on a legal basis so that they can pay taxes, so their kids can serve in the military, etc.
I think you've just hit the nail on the head, Liz, and I'm wondering, can you wait through the break? We want to pick up right after the break and talk about the economic impact here, because you just raised, I think, the central issue to this discussion. Can you hold on?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Listeners, you are listening to Conservative Commandos Radio Show. We are broadcasting live from our flagship station, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the Internet. This afternoon, we are speaking with Liz Peek, and we are talking about the subject of immigration, and we're hoping that during this break you'll check out our websites at ccrshow.com and conservativecommandosradioshow.com, and we'll see you on the other side of break.
Crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. We're coming to you from the CCRS studios today. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:30 this evening, East Coast time, please go to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And at 5 o'clock, right when we go out off the air, you can hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show on CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And we're speaking with Liz Peek, and Liz has written an article in the Fiscal Times called Why Obama Will Throw U.S. Immigration Laws Overboard. Liz, thanks for being with us, and thanks for holding through the break.
My pleasure.
Liz, when you were talking with Anna, you mentioned that you said that we are a fair-minded people, and I will agree with that, and I'll take it one step further, Liz. I'll say we are too fair-minded, and that in the 1980s, we had immigration reform. where we allowed 3 million people that broke our laws by entering our country illegally, citizenship, and that was supposed to be the end of it. It didn't work because here we are right back again. Liz, the argument that I'm making is we have immigration laws already, but the failure is in our government to enforce those immigration laws. What's your take?
Well, I would probably part ways with you a little bit on this. We have immigration laws, but half of them don't make any sense to me. For example, we bend over backwards to allow extended families of people to come here, which is very nice and generous, but we do nothing to make sure that highly trained, educated people who actually could add to our economy are welcome in the United States. That just seems boneheaded. I mean, I'm sure you've read the statistics. Something like 55-60% of our really smashing new businesses that are founded by immigrants. But increasingly, we're making it hard for these people to come to the United States. Mm-hmm. It's much easier to go to England or to India or some other countries which increasingly offer, more entrepreneurial opportunities maybe than we do. In other words, let's tilt the balance in terms of who we let into the country to people who can help build our country, not to people who are not going to be productive and adding to the GDP, et cetera. I mean, that's a pretty mercenary viewpoint, perhaps, but it seems in our best interest to do that. And I think also, that the laws that have to do with applying for visas, if you're married to an American and you're not in the country and you're trying to get in the country, sometimes those people wait 10, 15 years to get to the United States. That's not appropriate. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, in terms of humanitarian reasons. So I think all these laws that were passed a long time ago under different circumstances need occasionally to be reviewed, and I think there are a lot of aspects of immigration policy that are in that category.
Liz, I can agree with what you say. And, Liz, I can admire somebody who wants to come here for opportunity. And maybe these laws need to be revised, need to make them more efficient, make them more updated. In fact, I'll be honest with you, Liz, if we've got 15 million people who want to come here to work, I would like to trade them for 15 million people that are already in this country who don't want to work. That's a side issue, so I can understand that. But that's not what's happening here, Liz. We've got a lot of people that have come across our borders illegally, and they don't have high-tech skills, the kind of skills you're talking about. They are people who are looking for menial labor jobs. And the money that they make, they're either going to, a lot of that money, they're going to send back to their home country because their families back there, and if they are granted amnesty, that opens the doors for their extended families, their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their cousins, and they are also non-skilled people who are going to come here and use our resources. Heritage Foundation says that if amnesty is granted, it's going to cost us $6 trillion. It's going to add $6 trillion to our debt.
Yeah, I mean, the Heritage study, which I have written about, I think most people would say has some pretty serious quirks in it. But putting that aside for the moment, I agree with you again on this issue of, for example, the extended family. That's something we should be reviewing. And by the way, I'm not talking, what is amnesty? I think that people don't have to become citizens because that raises this whole issue of, are the Democrats just doing this to secure votes? I mean, it's a reasonable point of view, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, they have the legal votes of Hispanics, so if they get the illegals, it's even a bigger voting bloc. I don't think they have to be given voting rights, and I think there probably are other...
Well, don't you, Liz, not to interrupt you, but don't you think that's the crux to this whole issue, voting? Mm-hmm. That the Democrats see this as a new voter bloc?
I think it's that, yes, and also union organizing. I think that increasingly the unions are very... unions historically have been very anti-immigration because they saw people coming in and willing to work for less than minimum wage off the books, putting downward pressure on wages. But now, they're looking at all the service industries that employ immigrant labor, hotel workers, fast food workers, et cetera, as possible new rich areas for organizing. So, in fact, that's become a whole other sort of, if you consider organized labor, as I do, sort of an adjunct wing of the Democratic Party, that's another group that's very forcefully in favor of immigration right now.
Hey, Liz, before I hand you back off to Anna, there's just one other thing that I'd like to get you to comment on. We have had Congressman Steve Stockman from Texas here on the Conservative Commandos radio show many times, and he said that if amnesty is granted, the demographics of the United States would look like the demographics of California, and Republicans would permanently be a minority party with practically no power. Liz, what do you see America looking like after amnesty is granted, or would be granted?
Let's not talk amnesty. Let's talk legalization, because I think they're two different things here. And I think the what the House was talking about was a path towards legal status, not a path towards citizenship. I think that's right. Look, I think it's obviously an issue. All right, so let me take the high stand here and say if Republicans cannot win votes and following with ideas and opportunity and the things that I firmly believe are the crux of what we as a party have to offer, those same things should appeal to Hispanics as much as they do to any other part of the population. And I think it's not appropriate to basically look at an entire swath of our country and say all they want is to be fed and tended to by the Democratic Party. I mean, I understand where that sentiment comes from, but we should be willing, and again, this is perhaps a little fanciful on my part, but we should be willing to compete. And by the way, historically, Republicans have not just given up, thrown in the towel on the Hispanic vote, and nor should we going forward.
Anna, and I'll throw it back to you. Sorry, Liz. I think somehow, some way, we lost Anna a little.
Here I am.
Oh, okay.
Here I am. I did what Rick usually does. I forgot to turn on the microphone.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that, Liz. Anyway, I've been talking to you. You just couldn't hear me.
Sorry.
But the bottom line, I think, here is exactly as you're describing it, Liz. There are some economics here that I think are not being addressed properly. I think the rhetoric has to be tailored toward the economics here in order for the general public to understand it. There's a lot of spending going on right now. There's spending in the enforcement effort that many of the conservatives want to see increased. There's spending going on in the services that are provided to folks. And what you've suggested, legalization rather than citizenship, is that perhaps those employed here already could be paying into this system via taxes, employer withheld taxes, payroll taxes, so that they can offset the cost of the services that they're receiving. And also by legalization, we could cut some of the costs of enforcement at a time when the economy is slow and taxes are pretty much out of control. Your last thoughts on that as we close the segment?
No, I think that's totally true, and I think that instead of a lot of rhetoric, I agree. I think we need to take each piece of this puzzle. I mean, once again, I do not like bills that go through Congress with 2,000 or 3,000 pages because we never have the slightest clue what's in them, and there are all sorts of unforeseen consequences. Let's decide that there are 10 major issues, or 6, or whatever the number is, and look at them piecemeal, which is what the House...
Hey, Liz, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're right up against a hard break.
Sorry.
No, no, that's all right. Listen, really enjoyed our conversation with you. Will you please come back again?
I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Before you go, where can people go to read your article and to follow you?
Oh, great. LizPeek.com is my website. P-E-E-K. It's L-I-Z-P-E-E-K. Or the Fiscal Times. I write every week for them.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Take care. God bless. Hey, we're going to take a break. Please don't go away, and I will be right back with our next guest. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:30 this evening, East Coast time, please go to patriotsride.org. And at 5 o'clock, right after we go off the air, please go to cprworldwidemedia.com for a rebroadcast of yesterday's show. It was a great show. We had a very interesting guest, Kathleen Willey, who actually was a person who accused Bill Clinton of sexually assaulting her in the Oval Office in the White House. It was a great interview that John Mosley and I did with Kathleen Willey. And Anna Little, we do have our next guest with us, and will you please make the introduction?
Thank you very much. I am honored to make this introduction. Listeners, we are going to be speaking with Jillian Melcher this afternoon. She's the Senior Fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and Franklin Center Fellow for the National Review. Jillian Melcher covers energy and environmental issues for the Independent Women's Forum. She also writes for the National Review as a Thomas L. Rhodes Fellow for the Franklin Center for Government and Public Integrity. She was a 2011 Robert Novak Fellow for the Phillips Foundation, reporting on Christianity in China and traveling extensively while writing for the Wall Street Journal, Weekly Standard, Newsweek, Japan, Doublethink, and The Daily. She's also worked as an opinion writer and a history page editor at The Daily and an online editor at Commentary. She is speaking with us today about a convicted terrorist who has worked as an Obamacare navigator in Illinois. This is an article published in National Review Online. Jillian Melcher, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Well, you have got the sensational issue of the day. Here we have a terrorist in our midst, working as an Obamacare navigator, handling very detailed personal information of every American in the United States. Tell us what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story. So this woman, it was kind of buried on a disciplinary report for November for the Department of Insurance in Illinois. And what had happened was she was working as an Obamacare navigator, but far before that, when she was a young woman, she was part of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Now, that is a group recognized by the U.S. government as a terrorist organization. And what happened is in 1969, it was February, and this particular group packed a bomb in a box of candy, sneaked it into a grocery store, and left it on the shelf. And it ended up exploding and killed two students at the Hebrew University who'd stopped by to get groceries for a hiking trip. It also injured 9 or 10 people. So she ended up getting convicted for that, was sentenced to life in prison in Israel, was released as part of a prisoner swap, ends up coming to the United States, allegedly lying on her application papers to get into the country, becomes a U.S. citizen, and turns up as an Obamacare navigator.
Unbelievable. Now, as I read in your article, it's been determined that there are background checks that are accomplished before these people are given jobs as part of the Obamacare navigation project. So how is it that the FBI missed this in her background report?
Boy,
and then further, how is it that the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Michigan finds out about it when the FBI didn't, and then tells the public? I mean, this is just incredible. How does the FBI miss this?
I think so, too. So, I think it's kind of foremost a national security concern that this woman was able to get into the country to begin with. Illinois is actually one of the states that does conduct background checks on its navigators. That's not a federal requirement. So I think as many as 31 states don't do any background check on navigators. And these
well,
are people
there's
that I have
something that
access-
needs to be addressed right away.
Yeah, I've reported quite a bit about it. There's some other really disturbing stuff that I've found. But I think in this particular instance, they actually did a background check on her. I've seen it. The FBI didn't have anything on her, and they found out about it after, the federal government began an investigation into whether or not she'd lied on her application papers. But it's not like there wasn't anything online about her. I mean, this woman ended up participating in a documentary called Women in Struggle. She ended up...
Jillian, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't like to do this to our guest. You mean people could have Googled her and found out about her background?
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh.
Exactly.
And yet, oh my, I'm sorry. I just couldn't. When you said that, I nearly banged my head on the microphone.
No, it's crazy. I mean, I've seen that documentary called Women in Struggle, and there's actually a woman named Aisha Oda, and she's identified in the news reports as either Razmia Oda, that's the navigator's sister, or her comrade. And she's saying in the documentary in 2004 that Razmia Oda was involved in the grocery store bombing more so than she was. And then Razmia Oda is actually in that documentary saying that she's alleging that she was tortured while she was in prison, but she says, quote, "This increases my hatred against those who are responsible."
And of course she sees the United States as responsible, right or wrong?
She thinks that, I guess, the Israeli government is. She says, "I'm not the person that's responsible, the occupation is." So I think that's a pretty shameless admission.
When did she make that statement?
I think that was in 2004. That's when the documentary came out.
Wow. I'm sorry, Anna. This is just blowing my mind.
Well, I said this was going to be the sensational issue of the afternoon. I mean, because it is. I mean, my goodness. So we have an FBI doing a background report for the state of Illinois or Department of Insurance before she's hired. They don't catch this, yet she's in a documentary, and if you Googled her, you would have found it. And in the documentary, it is clearly outlined that she was very involved in this bombing, that she was actually convicted. She was sentenced to life in prison and then only released and transferred to another country as part of a prisoner swap. We can talk about those prisoner swaps because, frankly, well, okay, we're going to talk about those at some point. But I do think this bombing could have been worse than it was, Jillian. I mean, I'm looking again at your article here. It says here that one of the supermarket bombs malfunctioned and did not detonate. That the bomb, and this comes from the indictment against her, the bomb left in the courtyard of the British consulate was discovered and removed to a safe place. And then less than a week later, the same organization's members left another bomb at the British consulate, which luckily, it did detonate, but luckily only caused structural damage. So this woman didn't just put a single bomb in a box that would be on seemed to be a product on a supermarket shelf. The plan was a lot farther reaching than was accomplished. So we're talking about a full-fledged terrorist here. And our FBI was ineffective in identifying her as a terrorist. It seems that there's a lie in order to obtain citizenship documents. In other words, as a terrorist, anti-American, ready to bomb rather than talk about problems that involve this country. Israel is our ally in the region. Therefore, an attack on Israel is an attack on the United States. It seems to me that she was given citizenship based on lies, another faulty government action in the U.S., and she could have been voting in elections. I mean, did I get this right, Julian?
Yeah, I mean, she became a U.S. citizen, and I think now that the indictment's going on, the trial's going to be this summer, and she stands to be stripped of her citizenship. She could end up spending some significant time in a U.S. prison. But I do definitely think it's disturbing. I mean, she's been involved in an Arab American group in the Chicago area, and I know that.
Wow, that's terrible. Listen, I've got to go to break this minute. Will you hold on, because I want you to pick up with that thought on the other end of break.
Sure.
All right, thanks so much. Listeners, this is the Conservative Commandos radio show. We are broadcasting live from our flagship station, WSJC 1360, and around the world on the Internet. And while we're at break, we want you to check out our website, CCRShow.com and ConservativeCommandosRadioShow.com. But you've got to come back after break because we're not done speaking with Jillian Melcher about the terrorists in our midst dealing with Obamacare navigation. See you at the other side of break.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And this is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with yours truly, Rick Trader, and I'm joined by Anna Little as my co-host today. And our guest this segment is Jillian Melcher. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and the Franklin Center. She's a fellow for the Franklin Center for National Review, and we're discussing her article, Convicted Terrorists Work as an Obamacare Navigator in Illinois, which is appearing on National Review online. Jillian, thanks for staying through the break. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Jillian, you answered one of the questions I was going to ask before our break with Anna, that there is evidence that this person has continued to have ties and contacts with terrorists and terrorist groups. Is there any evidence that she did any damage while she was an Obamacare navigator?
Well, we don't know if she had ties with terrorists or terrorist groups. She was involved in an Arab American organization in Chicago.
Okay.
But the point that I want to make with that is, even if she was doing really good work in her community, it's still disturbing. I mean, this is somebody who was convicted for participating in a bombing that killed 2 young men. I mean, these were students in their early 20s. One of them ended up studying in Michigan. So I think this would be kind of comparable to if the Boston bomber 40 years from now had somehow gotten released and maybe went to Europe and was working with the government. It wouldn't really matter to us what he'd done in the time since then, whether he'd been involved in all kinds of charitable endeavors. I think the fact is that she was convicted for doing this, and she had no business serving as a navigator, much less being in the United States.
I think I'm more troubled even, Jillian, by the failure of our government's process to expose this, that it took, I guess, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Michigan telling the public about these prior convictions for the FBI to figure it out. And I'm not sure how she ended up being, processed in immigration proceedings regarding the lies on her citizenship applications. Maybe it was after the U.S. Attorney's Office brought it to light, but, this is a serious situation. My question is, how many other terrorists might we have in our midst? And how careless is this administration to allow them to participate in the single signature piece of legislation associated with this president? And then the last part of the question, this is a huge government overhaul of our healthcare industry where personal information of just about every American is going to be collected and stored, and we let a terrorist navigate this? I mean, it's very, very upsetting. And, I wonder, what is it that we can do at this point to try to deal with the fact that it's quite possible that these terrorists are living right next door? I mean, what do we do?
Yeah, I think you raised some good points here. I definitely want to note that I think this is probably the exception. I'm not saying in any way that all Obamacare navigators are terrorists, but it's definitely pointing at a pretty significant security overlap that should have been filled. They should have been able to identify that she had this past conviction. I'm glad they got rid of her now. I'm glad she's not serving as a navigator. I'm glad she's being indicted for allegedly lying on her application papers, but it does raise some serious questions. So I think one other thing that's maybe important to note is while I would anticipate that she's probably the only terrorist navigator, we do know that there are other convicted criminals who are working as Obamacare navigators. So I did an investigative report out of California and found out that there are 43 people who the state of California, their health exchange, knew had prior convictions and still approved to work as navigators. That includes several people with repeat financial crimes. I mean, you've got someone with a forgery conviction, 12 years later another forgery conviction, a burglary conviction in between, another person who was convicted for committing welfare fraud and was caught shoplifting on at least 2 occasions, and then another person who had 2 more forgery convictions on top of a domestic violence charge.
Now, these convictions, these are crimes involving moral turpitude, and then these people as navigators have access to the personal information of just about everyone in the country, certainly the ones in their proximity. I mean, are we setting ourselves up here for identity theft and other types of crimes by letting these people work in this capacity?
I think that's exactly kind of the concern. I mean, I wouldn't say they have access to everyone's data, but they definitely have the data that they're signing, or of the people that they're signing up. So when you go to buy health coverage on the exchange, you have to bring your social security number, your home address, your tax papers, in some instances your health records. I mean, it's a lot of data, and it's exactly what an identity thief would need. So, I mean, it's 43 navigators with criminal convictions in California. I think I calculated it out. It's only a very tiny percent. But the problem's nevertheless real. I mean, there's real damage that these people can be doing. It's a real potential for identity theft. So I think,
and it's little consolation that it's a known issue, and you're inviting people, actually you're legally obligating people to participate, and it's a known situation, and you're dealing with crimes. I mean, this isn't, a driving infraction or a family squabble. I mean, these are crimes involving moral turpitude. These are crimes where the ethics and the morality of the person have been compromised in the commission of the crime, and that lapse in ethical judgment should disqualify them from handling other people's identity information or their health records.
Yeah,
that's almost a no-brainer for me.
I think what was so shocking in California to me is that they knew about this. It had popped up, so it wasn't like they didn't know that these people had criminal backgrounds. But, they gave me kind of an interesting explanation. So they wouldn't give me all the records that I requested, just some of them. And let me give you the explanation. Follow my train of thought here, because it's a little bit funny. I'm going to read a quote to you, and then I'll put it in plain English. So they told me that all of these documents are non-disclosable because the public interest served by not disclosing the record clearly outweighs the public interest served by disclosure of the record. And that's because, quote, disclosing the names and criminal records of individuals applying to assist in covered California's push to enroll vast numbers in health insurance by March 31st is likely to discourage participation in this critical program and thus harm the people of California. So basically what they're saying is if the people of California knew about who their bureaucrats had chosen, they might not sign up. And that doesn't mesh with their political goal of high enrollment. I think that's a really indicative quote that they gave me on accident.
And they'll be harmed if they sign up, if these criminals follow through on their criminal behavior. They have the aptitude. Oh, my goodness. Rick, you were supposed to jump in. I'm sorry. I'm going to let you jump in. Go for it.
Jillian, I'm about to hit my head on the microphone again, because here, once again, these people, they can get all our private information, but we can't get any information about them.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see the irony here?
Yeah, I think I think you couldn't be more right on this.
Oh, gosh.
I do understand that there's an argument to be made that somebody who's been convicted of a felony needs a job in the legitimate economy. That prevents them from going back to a life of crime.
Well, you know, Jillian, for a minute, let's just talk about life of crime. I think there are two types of criminals: the really stupid and the really smart. I see crimes perpetrated by the really smart, and I think, you know, if they only use their intelligence for good means, just think of the good things they could do. I got to be honest with you, Jillian. If I was a criminal, I would try to get a job as an Obamacare navigator, because that opens up a whole world to me. Am I wrong?
An opportunity. And
yeah.
Really the point here is it's not about giving felons a second chance, because we want to be doing that. It's about consumers are being compelled to buy a product. They don't really have much of a choice. They have to get health coverage. And so I think they need to know, first and foremost, that their confidential information is being, I guess, handled in a safe way, and that their interests are being put ahead of the interests of people who want to become navigators. You have a choice to become a navigator. You don't necessarily have a choice about health coverage, or a strong one anyway.
Well, I agree with that, but as I said, if I was a criminal and I was looking to get people's personal information, I would apply to be an Obamacare navigator. Absolutely sure. Jillian, we really enjoyed having you today. We enjoyed your article. And as I say many times here on the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, I love our friends from the Independent Women's Forum. Could you tell our audience where they could go to find out more information about the Independent Women's Forum, the Franklin Center, and also to follow your writings?
Yeah, I mean, I would say start with nationalreview.com. That's where my articles get posted. And you can also follow me on Twitter. It's JILLIANKAY, Kim as in Matthew. And Independent Women's Forum and Franklin Center both also have websites. So check them out. They're wonderful.
They sure are. And we hope you'll come back again.
Oh, I would love to.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right. And we are going to, you know, Anna, I just want to, before we have to end our show for today, I'd like to remind our audience, you know, we're here at WNJC and the CCR studios every day, Monday through Friday, from 3 to 5 p.m. But you can also hear rebroadcast of our shows at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time at patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And right when we get off the air at 5 o'clock, if you would like to hear a rebroadcast of our previous day's show, please go to cprworldwidemedia.com. You can also hear a rebroadcast of our previous day's show the next day by going to vigilantlibertyradio.us. But, Anna, you know, we're out of time. We had a great show today. I want to thank you so much for joining me as my co-host. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you next week on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.